It's very brave of her.
Louis joins us now. Why this subject?
I'm always looking for stories where there's something really knotty and there's really deep emotion and angst. You know, those. I like to acknowledge those sort of darker sides that we all have, hopefully in a sort of positive way. And then a friend at work who was pregnant had been reading up on postpartum psychosis and mentioned it to me, which is actual psychotic episodes, often with a mum who's never had a history of mental illness, and I'd never heard of it, and I thought, that's fascinating. We did a bit of research and found out there are these mother and baby units where mums live with their babies on site round the clock, which is quite unusual around the world. These don't exist in most countries, but we have them through the NHS. And I felt it was a natural subject. You got the sort of the anguish, the difficult emotions, and then lightening it was the babies, these sort of wonderful babies, and I do like babies.
Oh, well, it's always nice to be surrounded by babies, but also just like listening to her say that, it's unexpected, isn't it? It's not the normal. You don't expect people to talk in that way, but it's a very, very serious condition that happens, and it's very brave of her to say that.
But, yeah, and I would like to acknowledge that was Catherine and all the contributors, Lisa, Barbara, and who was the fourth one? Marie. And they were all wonderful, all showed amazing reserves of courage and just sort of to go on, you know, it's hard enough to tell your friends about this stuff, but to go on TV and share these feelings is really difficult.
I have a friend of mine whose wife had very serious postpartum psychosis. I mean, and there is obviously the difference. Hormones are haywire at that time, and there can be postnatal depression. There can be the sort of baby blues, whatever that really means. But this is a medical emergency.
Yeah. Yes.
This is very serious, but thankfully quite rare.
Yes, I would say as far as postpartum psychosis goes, the statistic that was quoted to me was 1 or 2 in 1,000, which is both, I guess, low but also high, you know, in a sense, because every one of those is a potentially life-threatening condition. And very often the people we met at the hospitals had come in via the emergency services, the police. They were found wandering in a state where there was a likelihood of them doing themselves harm near a train track. And so everyone needs to be taken seriously. And at the same time, the good part of it, the good news is that we are, you know, the facilities I saw were places of joy where these mums were being, in a sense, reconnected with motherhood, with their babies. So it was I wouldn't want people to think that it's all doom and gloom. You know, there is a sort of, and specifically with postpartum psychosis, quite often there's a complete recovery with no further likelihood of any reoccurrence unless the person has another baby.
With you, because whichever sort of documentary you're working on, people tend to... You're very good at getting people just to speak and open up. Is there a kind of knack to that? Do you have a way? Do you leave sort of silences and let them speak? What do you
I just try and be... I mean, I feel weird even talking about it as though it's a technique, because it seems to me it's just being a kind of normal person and being... talking to people. I mean, I'm lucky that I work on location. I'm not in a studio. There aren't lights. There aren't cameras all around. It's just me and the contributor and then maybe one camera and a sound recordist. And so it's an intimate space, and I think it's just about trying to meet the person on their terms, showing an interest, and sometimes it involves leaving silences, but that's only because I'd like them to realise they don't need to perform. You know, we're not in the business of always having, you know, needing fireworks to take place, and sometimes leaving a silence to let an emotion come out and not hurrying the conversation along can really help.
Yeah.
How you saw our opening chat with Vanessa and Ali talking about dads and being home and paternity leave. How were you as a dad? Were you, because you've got 3 children?
Well, I'd give myself high marks, but you'd have to ask my wife. She might mark me a lot harder. I think for me it was a learning curve. You know, I think like a lot of guys, the pregnancy didn't feel like it. I mean, I knew it was going to lead to a baby, like rationally, but I sort of thought my whole attitude. You know, that you read these books and Nancy, my wife, would be like, month 3, your baby now, blah blah blah, and tuning off. Like, I wasn't really that interested. I thought, let's get down to it when the baby arrives. And then when the baby's there, you just have to figure it out. But I do think that I'm absolutely of the belief that guys should 100% help. And help isn't even the right word because it's a shared burden, isn't it?
You said, I think, that when you left the house and went to work, it was like leaving a burning building.
Did I say that? It was an element of that, you know, and I think that it's funny thinking it because it's all on our minds with the royal baby and the idea of what that's like. And there's no real way of communicating to someone who hasn't been through that life stage what it's like. And as much as there's joy, there is a sense of panic and confusion and fear. And I think the idea of going to work when we were in the midst of all of that did feel... it was an ambiguous emotion because I felt a sense of relief. And, like, I can go back to control, a place where people treat me sort of respectfully and sort of say, would you like a coffee? Or do you know what I mean? And you have meetings on time and everyone's polite. And yet, at the same time, there is a sort of sense of missing as well. You're sort of missing out on all that drama at home.
Yeah.
So it's funny.
What does Nancy think about the obviously, there are some subjects that you've covered, polyamory, I'm thinking, obviously, which was an interesting one. That must have been a fascinating conversation. This is what I'm going to do today.
Yeah.
But actually, the way that you're viewed and the fact that you have become something of a sex symbol.
Well, you say that, Phil. And
I mean,
there's a lot of support online.
Look over here.
Oh, my goodness.
These are... We bought those online.
There's a lot of merchandise.
You've been paid to do that.
But there is an awful lot of...
By the side of me here, if we look at that, that's been sitting there throughout the entire through the entire chat. It's just an ordinary cushion.
Hold on.
Unless you go like that.
Word.
Did you know these exist down there?
I don't even know. How do you do? That's
How cool is that?
The technology of that is what I'm interested in.
You can have that.
That's my Christmas
You can take those home for the kids.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yes.
I'm very flattered by that. And in fact, I remember when I first noted on the internet there were people selling T-shirts, and I just thought, wow, who would have thought it? And then at the same time, I was also aware there's a bit of irony built into it. Like, I'm aware that it's not like, oh, we think he's Brad Pitt. So clearly, I mean, I or my mum would not suggest that that's the best shot of me. Do you know what I mean? I just look gormless and my glasses aren't even straight. So clearly there's some sort of sense of, oh, well, it's his gormless qualities that we like, whereas I'd prefer to be a sort of Brad Pitt type sex symbol, but I'll take it wherever I can get it.
Thank you so much.
So nice to see you, as always.
Mothers on the Edge is on BBC Two Sunday, May the 12th, and thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.